Motorola has always been a high-technology company. For over 60 years, the company has competed by offering cutting-edge products that are rugged and highly reliable. By the 1970s, every business that Motorola was engaged in, communications, semiconductors, consumer electronics, was targeted by the Japanese. If the company were to survive as a global competitor, the way it did business would have to change radically. Today, Motorola's sales are almost $11 billion worldwide. The company has cracked the tough Japanese market with cellular phones, pagers, and semiconductors. The foundation of their success is no secret. Motorola competes with superior technological innovation and, most importantly, quality.
Total quality. It's crucial. Do it right and your organization should do well. Ignore it or mismanage it, then you're in trouble. In the early 80s, Motorola said we're going to improve total quality tenfold in 5 years. That sounded crazy. Most thought Motorola was already pretty good. But by 1985, people all over Motorola had started with wherever they were, defined their own measures, and improved tenfold. Then the real blow. Managers went to Japan to study best-in-class companies. They found that the best Japanese companies were still as much as 2,000 times better. That's when Motorola executives got really outrageous. They said we'll improve another 10 times in 2 years, 100-fold in 4 years, and achieve what they call Six Sigma the year after that. One caution. In hindsight, the process looks reasonably straightforward, but the folks at Motorola are the first to say they did a lot of muddling around. A certain amount of muddling seems to accompany any change effort as big as total quality. Motorola is a good example, and training materials like this should shortcut some of the seemingly inefficient muddling. But you have to expect it. After all, total quality is cultural change, and your culture is not Motorola's. You have to muddle to find out what works for you. Don't let your drive to be lean and mean drive out this necessary part of the change process. So top management is getting committed, setting goals, and muddling. What's the rest of the organization doing? As we'll learn from Motorola, they're adopting total quality one person at a time. Here's how it works. Divide the organization into a host of small teams. Give the teams the big goal, then let them find out their own ways to measure and meet that goal. The team starts by talking to its customers, those external or internal people, on the receiving end of whatever the team does for a living. They find out in customer terms, first what quality means, second how to improve what they do, and third how to measure that improvement. Then the team analyzes the way they now do work and the way it ought to be done to meet the newly defined customer targets. They tell management what has to be done and what it will take to get there. They own the process. Cost savings and new ideas begin to flourish almost day one. The rest is simple but not so easy: execution. Year in and year out, the process is repeated and continuous improvement ensues. And to people down the line, it's exciting. They're empowered and they're in control. And like ball teams who execute well, they start seeing a lot more wins. Top management has to be visionary, as Motorola was, to make the process work. As we'll see, Motorola made big savings through its total quality program. But could they have predicted success ahead of time? No way. Motorola suspended disbelief and committed a huge investment in quality because they believed that was the key to their long-standing goal: total customer satisfaction.
Motorola, world's largest exclusive electronics manufacturer, presents the Motorola TV Hour.
In the late 40s, early 50s, a person would buy a TV set, they would take it home, they would plug it in, and it would often fail. And so we became on a first-time basis with our dealer and or our repairman. This was early life failure or latent defects. This condition was very normal. In fact, the electronic industry has for years, and as long as I've been involved in the industry, and it's been my whole life, has assumed that it was normal to have early life failures. And this is a customer satisfaction issue. Now, if you buy a product and it fails, even though it's been repaired, you still put a bad taste in your mouth. You're dissatisfied.
Was Quasar by Motorola.
To counter industry-wide customer dissatisfaction, Motorola introduced their innovative Quasar line in the late 60s and early 70s.
It has set a new standard for reliable performance.
And Instamatic tuning helps keep the color constant, even when you change from channel to channel.
To channel. Hi, Steve.
Oh, hi, Jane. And it's backed up with Motorola's experience in tubeless solid-state modules that plug into the works-in-a-drawer TV for ease of service. Get the picture? Get Quasar by Motorola. By Motorola.
But people didn't want televisions that were easy to repair. They wanted televisions they didn't have to repair at all.
Now, the Japanese, they took our designs from the mid-50s. We gave them to them. We licensed our technology. They took our designs and they worked on their products and worked on the processes. And they eliminated the issue of early life failure. Consequently, when you bought a TV set, after it was no longer a U.S. industry, you buy one and take it home, it works, plays for literally forever. Okay? And consequently, that's a customer satisfaction issue. That brings about confidence in terms of market and sales. In fact, my personal view is that if we had not considered this issue of early life failures as being normal and it had done something to work on the design quality and the process quality and had eliminated the latent defects, we would still be in business in the United States today with a television or consumer electronics industry. That business would still be in existence.
The message wasn't lost on Motorola, a company that historically always had a quality focus. From its earliest products, an innovative car radio in the 20s, police radios in the 30s, the handy-talkie during World War II, and semiconductors in the 50s, Motorola's hallmark was ruggedness and reliability. With no help from the U.S. government, watching American industry yield any market to the Japanese was particularly galling for a company like Motorola, which prided itself on quality.
We're often asked how we got started on this journey for quality improvement, and it really goes back to 1979. We were in an officers' meeting in a hotel down in downtown Chicago, in the spring, sometime in the spring, and we were in a meeting that started on Thursday and it was going through Sunday noon. And we were halfway through this meeting when our chairman, Bob Galvin, asked the group, are there any second opinions or critiques on the progress of the meeting to date? One young man got up who was the national sales manager for the communications sector. This was our biggest business unit within the corporation. And he said to Bob, you know, it's a great meeting. We're making good progress on the agenda, but the agenda's all wrong. He says, I don't know what you folks are reading, but my salespeople tell me that their customers are telling them that our quality stinks. Okay. Now this literally caused an uproar or a riot among this meeting because all of us who were either in the factories or the product divisions were convinced that this fellow was all wrong.
I was glad that he was so candid, and I felt that that was an enlightening statement. It was obviously disappointing to hear our sales manager of the best product line we had, highest market share, and greatest profits, obliged to say that. But he certainly turned us on.
What is the catalyst for Motorola's extraordinary push toward total quality? Their aggressive quality goal of 6 Sigma. 6 Sigma is a statistical term defining standard deviations from a mean in a bell-shaped curve. 1 Sigma translates into a defect rate of about 32%. 2 Sigma is 96% perfect, and 3 is 99.7%. Motorola's goal for 1992 is 6 Sigma, 3.4 defects per million opportunities, near perfection.
Each of our businesses and all departments have accepted one fundamental standard of measurement of defects under the rubric of this Six Sigma quality program. That is a central core. We can compare dissimilar functions all over the company by measuring their Sigma ratings and have a very accurate relative measurement of how we're doing. So everybody uses the same metrics, the same measuring system. They come at the learnability of that slightly at variance. They have options as to how they will train 2 degrees, but fundamentally we're all moving to the same beat.
Throughout Motorola's over 60-year history, quality has been at the forefront.
And in my estimation, the real test of leaders, and measurable test, I believe, ultimately, is to test the degree to which the credentialed people of the company, not just the chief executive officer, have anticipated all the needs of their customers in their relevant field and have committed to it better than any competitor.
What does Galvin really mean by anticipate and commit? 2 things. First, he's telling us Motorola had to do that to get total quality off the ground. But second, he's saying that virtual perfection is not that far away, at least for standard activities like manufacturing and accounting. He's saying, let's assume that. What will our next big challenge be? Concurrently, he's asking, where have we and other companies always messed up in the past? Managements are too slow to see big changes coming and too reluctant to invest heavily in them. Motorola is way ahead of most companies in the U.S. and many of its Japanese competitors, and it's probably possible to be better than Six Sigma. But that's not going to give them continuing competitive advantage. So what's beyond quality? You need to be able to anticipate big changes early on, changes in technology, changes in the industry, the customer, the world. It's not forecasting, it's being better at making sense of what's already going on. Motorola did that with semiconductors. They did that with total quality. They're doing it with short cycle management systems. But here's the rub. Our traditional measures of financial performance typically get us off track. What happens is, you see things like semiconductors and total quality coming. Then you run a rigorous cash flow analysis on them. When they're in the emerging stages, they don't look that profitable, so people are afraid to commit. They might be wrong.